David Grusch makes an appearance on Dr. Phil and has some really interesting things to say. Check out this.
Right, of course. Have any of these pilots or occupants of these craft, to your knowledge, been taken alive?
Yes. And I know people who have had direct interactions in a detainment situation, which sounds very Star Trek and sounds very crazy, but it is true. And I talked to a former cabinet member about that, who directly worked the issue for a particular former vice president. You can guess which one. Darth Vader.
And were they able to communicate?
Yes. And it is true that some sort of consciousness communication, of course, people call it telepathy. I cannot begin to tell you how it works, but there is some sort of communication like that. And even friends of mine that were on retrievals felt that kind of communication as they approached the vehicle when they were doing cordoning it off, waiting for transport. How that works, what that means, I certainly don't know. I'm as curious as the average viewer on your show on how that works. And it does feel very Star Trek to me. I have no personal experience with anything like that that's outside of my normal, human experience. But that is indeed, what people have experienced in the government with these things.
According to David Grusch, we've recovered live aliens and we've communicated with them through telepathy. Wild statement. Let's get started today. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Astral. Wanted to run through a couple of bits of news that just happened recently over the last few days. We have Marco Rubio came out on an interview talking about the UAP topic. Bigelow and George Knapp released the second part of their interview. And also today, there was a podcast released from Dr. Phil in which he had David Grusch on. So I chopped up a couple clips from that, and we're just going to go through some of these, sound bits and talk more about them. So I'll go ahead and bring up the Rubio interview. It's been a while since Rubio's been in the news talking about UAP. I think even the last time was like the Age of Disclosure, in which we saw the last one. I think people thought he was going to be more involved in the topic within the Trump administration and the executive team, but it looks like he is not too much involved in it anymore, and that a lot of the role has been delegated to Stephen Miller. So let me bring this up and we can go over a little bit more.
And now, I've sort of surrendered that portfolio to someone else who well, who's very much in charge of the UAP issue.
Interesting choice of words that he says he surrendered it. So he surrendered it to Stephen Miller is basically what he's saying right here. The UFO topic itself. Again,
it's not, what I say is, I don't know who it is, I don't know what it is, but there are things flying over our military installation and they're not ours, and we should look into this, be serious about it. And I did that for a long time in the Senate. And it had two benefits. The first is that obviously it's a legitimate topic. And the second is, whatever the news of the day was, it was controversial. And a reporter comes up to you and you say to them, look, I don't have time for these questions about politics. Do you realize there's things flying over airspace? We don't know what they are. And the reporter's like, oh, what do you know? Tell me more. So it was extraordinarily effective as a diversionary tactic in addition to. Now that said, it's also a very legitimate topic that we should be covering.
It's a weird way to preface that whole thing. I've used it to kind of defer away from interviews so people don't really take that serious and they just leave, but we should take it serious.
So I don't call it a conspiracy. I don't know the answer to any of it. I'm just, asking the questions about, we should know what's flying over our airspace. But I don't think that's a conspiracy theory as much as it is just It can be in some sense because people do believe we're covering something up. And I assure you, like in this administration, if we knew, like the president would be all over. Like there would be, prime time address. He would, he'd be showing the pictures and the videos. But, Stephen's on that case now, and I think he's doing a great job.
So it's just conflicting messages that we're getting, because people have been coming in and coming out publicly saying, we are giving them direct information that they should figure this stuff out. And Rubio is saying, if we had the information, we would publicly disclose it. We would reveal it. And, so it doesn't seem like they're working hand in hand together with the whistleblowers of the information that they're trying to bring forward. So for Rubio to say, if we had it, Trump would make the announcement. It doesn't seem to me like Trump is preparing some speech, or like they're on the verge of announcing this or making it known to the public, because they don't know. They can't back up the announcement or the speech with evidence and information that would be satisfactory enough for people who start asking questions. I think that's, everybody thinks this ontological shock and maybe societal breakdown is going to happen. But I think more than that, if anything else, people are going to have questions that they're going to want to almost expect to have the answers for. So if you make an announcement like that, if you reveal this to the public, you better have these questions that are definitely going to come ready to be answered, so that people can move on with it, then take the information. But I think that to be able to for Trump to announce it, I'm just not sure that this is lining up. And you kind of see this now with the whistleblowers that are coming in. Trump's like, hey, waive the NDAs. Whistleblowers can come in. They're not coming in because they're basically saying we don't feel protected enough. This isn't good enough. And so I wonder, and a recent quote by David Grusch talks about Stephen Miller and his seriousness of the topic. So I guess now there are concerns that Stephen Miller, now on the front lines of this, and it really in control of the UFO disclosure and the process that's going behind it, has questions about how seriousness he's really taking this. So will be interesting how this dynamic goes forward. Just Rubio has just seemed so into and on top of everything that's going on. So for him to just delegate it again, like to submit it to somebody else, is just strange. You would hope that he would at least guide him. And that's one of the things that Grusch says, is he's hoping that Rubio would be guiding him in his direction of what he's going forward. So we'll see how that shapes out. I just wonder if Rubio is going to be involved much anymore in the UFO topic. After he came out on Age of Disclosure, he did an interview, and it wasn't like mocking it, but he stepped back. I think he was separating himself from the claims that had to do with a lot of the insiders that were in Age of Disclosure, talking about crash retrievals, non-human intelligence, in the sense that they know that this is real. But I don't think Rubio's there yet. He was walking it back in the interview after the documentary, and separating himself from, I think, the concrete claims now that he's in this role. So, that was interesting to see. All right, so I wanted to bring up this interview. There was a second interview with George Knapp and Bigelow, and Bigelow seems to be talking a lot more about consciousness in this one. So we can just, this is a short clip.
Ultimately is responsible for everything in the universe that you can think of, everything. First of all, we have proof that you survived your container, which is a huge friggin' step for people to digest that.
I don't know that there's proof. It's tough to say that there's proof of anything, and Bigelow should know this already with the proof. But proof of the afterlife, proof of a soul in a container, no, we're not there yet. There's not even studies that could conclusively show that, or even you can't even gather evidence from the proof of the afterlife, evidence of the afterlife. This is what parapsychologists dealt with when they first started looking at this stuff. I know for J.B. Ryan, he was looking to gather evidence of the afterlife, of life after death. He was looking to somehow measure that and wasn't able to. The only thing that is there is really anecdotal testimony of near-death experiences. So near-death experiences, in those numbers, you can sort of pick out patterns and characteristics that are very common within near-death experiences that don't have to do with religious background or anything else, or any other demographic information other than the near-death experience itself. So you've got that. But really the direction that they went into was extrasensory perception. So they studied things like telepathy, like precognition, clairvoyance, and remote viewing. And that was the most powerful way to study something like non-local consciousness instead of the afterlife, because there was no active way to gather data collection from, the other side. And one of the things that I'll look at is Bigelow and the Institute of Consciousness Studies. So let me jump over to this. His website is, he started a new organization, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, which is the BICS, the Bigelow Institute of Consciousness Studies. The first initiative that he did was have a near-death experience essay contest. And Jeffrey Mishlove was the one who won that, ended up winning $500,000, which is wild just for essay contests. For $500,000 is crazy. The next thing that he did was what was called the BICS Challenge Program, which looked at different funded projects that were looking at the other side. So I'll read through it. Excuse me. Has the spirit world failed humanity? So this was the main question and goal of the funded projects, was to gather information from quote unquote the other side. So in 2023, they issued a groundbreaking challenge to the spirit world. 67 hand-picked mediums comprising 6 teams in 3 countries were funded almost $400,000 over a 9-month period to connect with the afterlife over answers to this question: has the spirit world failed to enhance human spirituality on Earth since 1857, as evidenced by the dramatic rise in wars, violence, and uncontrolled technology at the expense of human spirituality? So they have a lot of these programs looking into that. So they were looking at mediumships, channelers, remote viewers, dreaming groups, all of these with the goal to gather information and get these answers from the other side. There are the final reports, so you can go into and see. And, what they look like is it's just like a long document that gives a briefing, summary and overview and technical details of it. So it's like a scientific research project. It's kind of framed in that way, but it's looking at, these topics such as mediumship and communication with the other side. And I think somewhere around here, they started looking into the afterlife was real. Okay, so this was like the next step beyond the near-death experience. So the near-death experience was to kind of say, okay, and I think that's where he's saying the proof of, like, this is the proof in which he feels like this is strong enough that enough researchers contributed to this near-death experience essay, and then they were able to take information from what the mediums were saying and, really, I guess, conclude that consciousness is non-local and, our bodies are used as a container, which I think a lot of people could resonate with that, but it's tough to hear somebody say that conclusively without others knowing based off of the same information how he got there. So sometimes that's going to be difficult for people to take. So let me jump back to his latest episode with Bigelow, and goes into
what I get from a lot of people who watched it is, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it now? And how far do you want to go?
So I think the initial push was sometime back with the publishing of Jim Lukaski's book in 2023. Then he did a sequel in 25 and another one in 2026. And I have all 3 of those books here on the table. And then later was when I was with the president and was doing the disclosure advisory kind of thing with him and giving him some help and ideas and so on. I realized that I was rowing upstream on this thing against the tide, and the tide was what the Pentagon had already decided they were going to do, and what Arrow actually meant as a disguise. And probably a fraudulent effort to squash disclosure. And so I thought, well, this isn't fair to the president if this is going on behind his back. And then if he wants honesty and disclosure, then he needs support from the government, from all these other people, all the, that are rowing the other direction. So I would like to, I actually flagged specific areas in Lukatsky's book here, the one that he authored in 2023, I think it is. Yeah. And then also refer to some things that Lukatsky and George Knapp and Colin Kelleher authored in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, because you guys did a really good job.
By the way, before we dive into that, I don't know if you've seen how much of the reaction on social media you've seen to the episode 1, but it's pretty overwhelming. I get from.
Yeah, that's interesting that he keeps referring to Lukatsky. Lukatsky is probably one of the most frustrating figures in ufology because he was so deeply involved in OSAP and apparently some other programs and may have knowledge about the legacy program, but he's not coming forward and he's being very shifty about it. And his answers are frustrating. I know a lot of the community is frustrating just hearing him talk on the weaponized episodes. So it seems like this was actually a separate episode. And this goes back to the question of, is this a permanent thing with Knapp and Bigelow? Like, is this the show? Is this the show in which they go back and forth around? And you can see the books, right? Like the books right here on the table are the essays. And I have them. Bigelow was sending them out to whoever sent an email. So as soon as the essay contest concluded, they printed up these hardcover books, this entire set, 5 books. It's like $150 set, $200 set, and just mailed them. He, spent a whole lot of money, but mailed them out to whoever. So I was trying to hit people up. I think I posted about it at one point to just write this email and you'll get this free book set of this incredible near-death experience essays. And some of them are really good. Like I think a lot of them are good. I would think most of them that made the cut were written very well and could be convincing all together like that. So it's like a meta-analysis of near-death experiences contained within that. But, Bigelow, what he's saying about Arrow, like Arrow is too entrenched in the process. Arrow and Pursue are driving this. So for people on the outside to be like, Arrow's fake, you need to listen to us. Like, I just don't see it. It's almost like you have to work within Arrow to show that. And no one has really been able to do that. I think they're calling them bad actors, but it would be easier to then show that, to say, okay, this whistleblower definitely knows this information, has this evidence, brought it into Arrow. Arrow purposely withheld it and didn't publish the information or disclose it. And so that would go to show that they are, bad actors. They're not in acting genuine in the investigation in which they're trying to do. No one has been able to really come forward and to do that. I think what it turned into a few years ago was that about Sean Kirkpatrick, but the Arrows, like once Kirkpatrick left, a lot of the stuff didn't hold true anymore because it was all about Kirkpatrick and Kirkpatrick's personal agenda to debunk the topic and to intentionally mislead a lot of this. And so now that Arrow's still involved in the process, they're working with the Department of War, they're working with Pursue. It seems like, they're going to be working with anybody in the UFO topic because they're already established. People are supporting them, like Gillibrand is a big supporter. And I think for the most part, Congress, there's a photo op of Luna, a representative Luna, handshaking the new Arrow director, John Kozlowski's hand. And they're like, oh, this is a new step forward. We should trust them. So I think for this whole flip thing to try and flip around and be like, well, Arrow, we didn't trust them. We don't trust them. So I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think that's going to work. All right, let's see. Should we go over? Oh, there was this new video that was released recently that Times Magazine just did.
For generations.
So it was a review of the recent event in DC of the Disclosure Foundation had with whistleblowers. And also just, I think one of the journalists from Time, and he's in the video, I think he might have produced a lot of this stuff, attended the event. And so they made up this video from it. I thought it was pretty interesting. And you know what? I may or may have not made an appearance on this video. Let's see if you can check it.
What does the U.S. government know about UFOs or life on other planets? For generations, the question has been asked and answered in art, books.
First of all, they should have somebody else narrate it, bro. You didn't need to narrate it.
Film and television. And Washington is prying into the issue with increasing focus.
Welcome to the first annual Disclosure Forum.
I'm here at an event called the Disclosure Forum. We're hearing from academics, business leaders, religious leaders, and politicians who are calling for greater government transparency or disclosure.
At the heart of this forum were the hundreds of reports that have been in government storage, unavailable to the public for decades. Reports of civilian and military accounts of flying, hovering, blinking objects that appeared in the daytime or, more often, nighttime skies. In May 2026,
these are all the tranche videos too, so he's putting in recent stuff, so I could appreciate that.
President Trump began releasing these files, ordering that they be posted directly on a Department of Defense website.
We're releasing a lot of information having to do with extraterrestrial things, and people are totally fascinated by it.
After decades of secrecy, stigma, and sometimes silliness, the government has begun taking things seriously. What used to be called UFOs and now go by UAPs, or unidentified anomalous phenomena, are being given the full investigatory treatment. Congressional hearings were held in 2022 and 2023.
UAP are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported. These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine.
In 2022, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office was established to detect, identify, and attribute objects of interest, especially on or around military bases and installations. In December 2023, then President Joe Biden signed into law the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act as part of the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. The UAP portion of the law requires collection, preservation, review, and public disclosure of all evidence of relevant sightings and encounters. And just this past June, the White House established the UAP Science Advisory Council to study the national security risks posed by UAPs.
The real test is that we will come up with a clearer understanding of UAP, so everyone would know what we are talking about.
Last year, the nonprofit Disclosure Foundation was launched with the aim of encouraging the release of UAP reports and formulating government policy related to UAPs. On June 25th, 2026, the foundation...
I don't think it was formed last year. I think it changed last year. Let's not forget that the Disclosure Foundation was the organization that had Lou Elizondo on its board and put on an event where Lou Elizondo came out and shared in front of Congress and in front of the public a irrigation crop circle and acted like he had talked to a pilot and this was a UAP. The next week, he left the organization and they reformed it. Him, Matt Ford, Gary Nolan, all left, which is very suspect. Like those three guys leaving after, and then them, branching out into a new direction. I don't know, but that's just a clarification there. That's what happened with that organization.
And convened the Capitol Hill Forum. The day-long event featured political figures from both sides of the aisle. Throughout the day, experts discussed the technological, national security, economic, psychological, and even religious implications of UAPs.
Today, experts that rarely occupy the same room are gathered here in this room to discuss a subject that was, until very recently, untouchable.
The speakers acknowledged that in some respects they were there at their peril, since publicly discussing the matter of flying saucers still carries some reputational risk.
You're Black from Indiana, you're Muslim, and now you're talking about UAPs.
But it's a measure of the growing public.
Hold up now. Got me right in there. Need to know. There it is. Your boy made times. on the cover of Times. Here we go. Next step, Times Magazine cover, y'all. You could barely see me, but I thought that was fun. I was super surprised to see that. I'm like, wait a minute, that's neat to know. I was like, hold up, they got the episode where I'm on there? Okay. So shout out, get a little press.
Public interest in the phenomena and the mounting evidence that something is out there, that more and more serious people are willing to take that risk. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence is the so-called Tic Tac incident, which occurred off the coast of Southern California in 2004. During an otherwise routine deployment that year, radar personnel belonging to the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group repeatedly noticed the reflection of a...
I'm going to tell you what, man. Looking at the Tic Tac thing again, it's not that spectacular when compared to the other videos in the tranche. Plus, we have more context because nothing's redacted. But I don't know. We've made a whole bunch out of these 3 videos that were released in 2017. But comparing them to what else has been released, it's nothing spectacular to me. Which is just a wild evolution to like what gets people convinced that this is something. Is if you would have included these 3 videos in the latest tranche, I don't think they would be like, oh my gosh, this is the Tic Tac, or there's Tic Tac, there's like 10 Tic Tac videos in the last couple of tranches. So it would be interesting to kind of go back and see what the difference would have been if these were just included in the tranche. I mean, obviously you can't do it with hindsight, but man, I just thought about that. Let's get this. All right, let's finish it up.
Skittering airborne object they could not explain. To crack the mystery, a team of flyers was scrambled into the sky. Once aloft, they discovered what they estimated to be a 45-foot-long flying machine that bore a striking resemblance to a Tic Tac breath mint. The belief seems to be bipartisan. According to a poll conducted by the Disclosure Foundation just weeks before the Capitol Hill Forum, 84% of respondents want more information from the government on UAPs. 69% believe UAPs are real. 59% support hearings and transparency laws. And just 21% trust the federal government to be telling the complete truth. The responses cut across party lines. A statistically meaningless 1% separates the whopping 89% of Republicans and 88% of Democrats who say they want more information on UAPs.
Wow.
UAP transparency has a fixed endpoint. The government will tell all it knows, the sightings will be investigated, and their origins will be determined to be terrestrial, highly advanced military or other assets, or epically extraterrestrial. Whether the stuff of science fiction becomes the stuff of true life, who can say? But a more serious approach could lead to a profound shift in humanity as we know it.
It's a good video. I think it was well put together. Hit a lot of points, hit a lot of recent things. They used a lot of the tranche videos, had very current news. This I think was a good summary of like the last year of how this all has kind of evolved into what it is today. So props to that, and will be interesting. Look, we've got people that have 60 Minutes behind them. We've got Time Magazine paying attention to this stuff. So, larger organizations and media outlets are really investigating and looking into this. Speaking of the 60 Minutes, I just want to look at
resources of 60 Minutes behind you. You'll finally be able to crack what the UAPs are.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is obviously the number one goal, and I've said if I can't break the UFO story I don't want to make any promises, but yes, the subject of UFOs has come up at once or twice, maybe only from my end, in conversations about stories that the media should be interested in going forward.
You talked here about the sort of messy edges of reality and your sense of not knowing quite, of being less certain than you've been at other times. And I bring up the UFO thing, not totally in jest. I think it actually has become an important part of your work. And to me, that and sort of a deeper skepticism of knowing who to trust, of knowing what kind of information to trust has begun to characterize your work. So when you think about navigating the boundaries of a reality whose boundaries seem less certain to you. Like, how do you think about?
How do I think about journalism? How do I think? So when I thought of the UFO story as just a story about people who have weird experiences in the woods and come back and claim to have been abducted by UFOs, right? Like, that story is interesting, but it's not intensely interesting because it's so personalized. Like, you're not going to get, it's like sort of analyzing someone's religious experience. It's really interesting to do, but you're not going to get a sort of final decisive answer. Like, if someone describes their religious experience, there's no journalistic trick that can tell you, was that really God or not? But with UFOs, like, there are concrete claims made about objects that operate in physical reality that are observed by, let's say, Navy aviators. And there are other concrete claims about supposed secret programs that the federal government has. And those are questions that journalists should be able to answer. So I'm interested in the UFO story in particular, but also other questions like, the debates that we're already having about AI consciousness, these kind of things. Not because I think they are unknowable, but because I think that they actually do presumably have answers.
I think this is actually a really good take and really interesting to me, because we assume that for a journalist to dig into the topic that they have to be pro UFO, like into this, behind the thought that this is real, and reporting supports it. I think the total opposite. I think we need journalists to dig into this topic that don't buy it, that don't believe it's real, and that will really investigate, because unfortunately, like he said, this goes into a vetting situation where, do you believe, is this person credible? Your discernment has to do with the person telling you the information instead of the evidence speaking for itself. And so for people to come in and really investigate this topic, and then they're told, you have to believe this person, because everybody who, you have to believe this person, and this information is ironclad, even though you don't actually see the evidence. And what he's saying too is that a good journalist should be able to find out the answers. If this is really something, that the answers should come through the journalists, and that more information should be able to be discovered that doesn't have to do with trust me bros. I feel like that's what he's getting down to. Like, the information should be presented to the public that doesn't have to be a trust me bro. And rely on the belief that what this person is saying is true. So I welcome it, man. I think this is going to be good. A lot of people, I think, are already complaining, oh, skeptic, 60 minutes. Like, good, man, good. Because if you don't want disinformation and bullshit, then we need people sifting through this and asking tough questions. And if the big media companies are going to come in and they're just going to start shilling for the topic and not really investigate it, that's not going to be the best thing. The best thing are going to be good journalists who are going to come into the topic, not able to be that gay. You got to have thick skin. Remember, Michael Schellenberger came in and basically everybody was trolling him after Corbell went on his rant and temper tantrum because he wasn't getting credit. And people, so when journalists are coming in, and asking tough questions, they're going to be seen as sort of the opposition. But I think it's necessary to be able to sift through a lot of this stuff so that we can get some of the answers. So it doesn't become this trust game that is always lingering around. So it will be interesting to see how that develops. All right, I want to play a few clips from the latest. Look, Grusch goes on Dr. Phil. The timing is crazy. This feels so coordinated to me that David Grusch is going on a podcast. David Grusch very rarely makes appearances. And all of a sudden, he's going on an hour-and-a-half conversation with Dr. Phil. It's just wild of the timing that's. Dr. Phil's been in the UFO topic for 5 minutes. He literally just got here and he's all in. And now he's interviewing Grusch. What is going on? This seems way too coordinated. This is the things that I pay attention to and I notice where it's like, this seems way too coordinated for Dr. Phil all of a sudden to have Grusch on. This seems like a direct plea to Trump. Like, they're trying to get the message to Trump. They feel, to me, whistleblowers feel like if Trump makes some kind of move, gives them, again, I don't think Trump is going to do this unless he's able to back this up. Just like Rubio was saying in the beginning of the show. Yeah, they'll announce it. They need to have confidence in what they're saying with the evidence. So if the whistleblowers are like, yeah, go say aliens are real, announce that we've got crash retrievals to the public. And then the public's like, okay, where's it at? Show us the evidence. And Trump's like, well, the whistleblowers told me that. And it's like, we're back to square one with ufology. That's ufology in a nutshell right there. So let's just listen to this, a couple quotes from the show, and then we'll wrap it up for today.
I had folks from the retrieval program, I'll call it exfiltrate audiovisual evidence for me to see, both video and photos. And that was, audiovisual evidence of the retrieved craft, some of the dead cadavers that were recovered, call it the pilots as
the dead cadavers, bro. Who says the dead aliens, dude? The dead aliens, the aliens that are dead, the pilots of the UFOs, the dead cadaver. It's crazy, boy. Grusch to the T. That's Grusch.
As I said in my interview with Nancy Mace, and of course, I interviewed a ton of subjects all the way up to the cabinet, White House level that had close personal participation in this subject. And of course, because I wasn't hands-on, so to speak, and saw this in person, I brought a lot of those people to the Intelligence Community Inspector General under the Biden administration, so they can hear it from the horse's mouth. They can get information on the locations of where this is being held, where the archives facilities are, where they hold all the program records, et cetera. And of course, this complaint was, considered credible and urgent. Admiral Haynes was forced to send it to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees in summer 2022. And then I subsequently provided 11 and a half hours of classified testimony to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees.
So Grusch, he saw videos and photos of crash retrievals and alien bodies, brought it forward, and even brought of the witnesses who he heard from, brought them forward who did have firsthand experience into the craft. So he did as much as he could under the position that he was in. So this seems like a message. Again, I think they're trying to frame it to the executive team, the executive branch to do it. And even in this next quote, they talk about Stephen Miller and his commitment to the topic. So let me just go right into that one.
Is helping Stephen Miller. Once again, I hope Secretary Rubio is helping Stephen Miller at the White House, because I'm hearing mixed messages about Stephen Miller's seriousness. And I hope he understands how this will impact President Trump's legacy if this is botched. I think the JFK files release, unfortunately, it was just released to the public. I think even as a former intel officer, I still haven't come to a conclusion. What happened to JFK? Did CIA and the mob kill him, or what? It wasn't curated. It wasn't, explained to us what all this means. And I think the same thing needs to happen with the UFO file drops. It needs to be done in a professional way that's consumable for the public. Once again.
Right, the Stephen Miller, he's hearing mixed messages about Stephen Miller. It just ties into the first clip that we played today. Marco Rubio said that Stephen Miller is now in control of the UFO topic. Eric Burleson has said that he's personally working with Stephen Miller to make whistleblowers feel comfortable breaking their NDAs and coming in and revealing information. Now Grusch is saying that, he's hearing mixed messages on the seriousness that they're taking it, that Stephen Miller is taking this. And, so whether or not people are going to pull up and ask the questions of the development of this, how we're going to hold to account, I think that just seems to be coming to a front where Grusch and all of these whistleblowers are now made this plea, to President Trump, where President Trump, we're here standing by. Just give us the okay to reveal this to the public. And they're saying, pump the brakes a little bit. We have to get a little bit more information from you. And if you're not comfortable even coming in, why should we allow you to just reveal everything to the public? That's what I feel like is happening here. Is there's a little bit of back and forth on what's going to be allowed to be revealed to the public. And what I'm feeling is like the government wants to be in control of that, which makes sense. But again, like the whistleblowers, if you're on the edge of that, it feels like catastrophic disclosure wouldn't be that far away. Catastrophic disclosure. So catastrophic disclosure, let's just get that. All right. Forget about the government and making this big plea. Like, how about the whistleblowers just all come out at one time and reveal everything? And then the act of something then happening, we're putting the pressure on. The whistleblowers and the community and the research body are putting the pressure on to say, okay, we've just revealed everything. Tell us what we're going to be arrested for, like that. And then the public would galvanize the public. That I think it would get people to buy in, where, we're kind of like, all right, support us, get everything we need. We need exactly this. We need yellow M&Ms. We need a carpet rolled out. We need all this stuff. And then we'll come in and reveal this information. I just don't know if that approach is going to work. So went through a bunch of stuff today. I think the first and the last clip are really key to me, that coincide with each other, of Rubio, kind of stepping back from the topic, saying Stephen Miller is going to take control. And now Grusch, just a few hours ago, came out on Dr. Phil's podcast, which is surprising that Grusch has been on it, since Dr. Phil is brand new into the topic of getting involved like that. And he's already got Grusch. But what Grusch is saying is he's getting mixed reviews on Stephen Miller. So whether or not there's a direct line to the White House to get, this information over there, I just don't know about questioning them, like questioning how far that is going to get with then turning into allowances for whistleblowers and some of the avenues that we're trying to get. Is calling out the executive branch the right move? I don't know. Answer it down below. I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on that. All right. So appreciate that. Appreciate everybody for coming by. Hit that subscribe button and, throw out a comment in there. I'd like to know everybody's thoughts. Appreciate that. Go check me out on X as well. Got a lot of stuff coming up. Have a good one, guys. Peace.